Hey, welcome back to Video Game Tester 101. My name is Lawrence. I'm a guy who's been in video game testing QA for over a decade, and I'm here to impart some of my wisdom and experience to you guys. Hopefully, it'll be entertaining or helpful or useful for anybody who's interested in getting into the industry. So, one of the things I want to talk about here was the difference between when I first got into video game testing and how it got towards the end of when I got out of it. So if you don't already know, I actually am a QA automation engineer for software. I don't do QA anymore, but nonetheless, my decades worth of experience is still valid when I'm sure that I can go get a job anywhere, almost anywhere, depending upon, where it is and based on my skill set. So I could do it. So hopefully this will be useful to you. So let's talk about the old school way and the new school way, because obviously nobody is doing the old school anyway. So this is just an interesting history of the past. So I started at SCEA, Sony Computer Entertainment of America, back in, I believe it's 2006, maybe? I don't remember. Something like that. Maybe earlier. Something. That's one of my first jobs. And let's see. It'll be easier today to explain how I know it's done. If you're testing a video game and you find a particular bug, your computer gives you plenty of options to take screenshots and even record the desktop, and you can take that content and package it up. Here's a screenshot or here's a video, and you could send it up to Jira, or you send it up to whatever bug tracking system you have, or maybe you even name it a certain way and put it into Google Docs or however the company does it, right? And so you write up the bug, this, and this, and then the developer goes, okay, I see the bug, and then I can then open up the video and, oh, okay, I see what's going on. I'm sure there's more ways. You can use a software called Loom. There's plenty of ways right now to get your point across to the developer of the bug or the problem that you're finding. It's really super easy. But what we did back in the day was, we didn't have a wide range of accessible computers for everybody. Now I'm speaking on behalf of console games first, simply because I know that I worked on PC games, and obviously if you're working on a PC game, you're going to be working on a computer and you're going to have access to all that stuff. But nonetheless, console games, Xbox, Nintendo, Sony, those are all, even devices, right? Mobile devices, even handheld consoles. All of them, it's going to, depending how you do it, you got to kind of have these workarounds to deliver your message. So I'm going to speak on behalf of Sony. So we're playing the PlayStation 2 and then probably get into the PlayStation 3. So we would play. Obviously, we would have our test devices, and we have just a TV, right? A TV, and some TVs would be better than others. Some of them would be nice monitors. Some, because you still want to test at least at the time. I don't know so much about today, but at the time, you want to make sure that your game played on old rickety TVs with the old box TVs that are heavy, the kind that if you drop them you break your foot. So you still want to make sure that your game plays on all these devices, or all these televisions. So how are you going to record that, right? We don't have cell phones. We didn't have cell phones at the time to record it. So what we did was we had the old system, old VCRs. Depending on how old you are, you probably don't even understand. You may have heard of these archaic things called VCRs, and we'd set our VCR up. So the way it worked is we have our television, we put in our tape, and we hit record, and then we'd play, and you'd play, and then if you didn't find anything and the tape finished recording, then you stop, you rewind the tape to the very beginning, and you hit record again, boop 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 boop, right? And you do that throughout the day, and if you found a bug, then you would, depending on if there's a timestamp or however the game was developed, then you would do that, and then you would try to figure out how to get that VCR recording and go up and show the developers. And it was this long, annoying process of delivering, show here, this is, and that was a real huge pain in the butt. So they really relied on a term called frequency. How frequent was this particular problem? So I know many of you who have never done video game testing before, you don't know what that means. But if it's helpful, I will be coming out with a video game testing course for you to try to get your foot into the door and have the advantage over everybody else. Right now I have a free course. It's just introduction, doesn't go into too much detail, just an introduction of who I am, what it is. So I'll put that description down below. You can check it out, but I'll be coming out with a more detailed one. But for now, frequency was like, okay, so how frequent were you finding this particular bug? So I walk through the door and the game does this or this or this. Well, sometimes bugs don't happen 100% of the time. Now, if you happen to get this issue 100% of the time, the need for video is very low, right? Every time I do this, the game does this. So you'd write the frequency is 100%. Happens. Or you don't even have to use a percentage. You can do 10 out of 10 times. Because depending on where you go, they may want you to try to reproduce it multiple times. So you could say I tried. It happened 6 out of 10 times, or that would be 60%. But nonetheless, it would be, there's this understanding of how easy it is to reproduce. And if it's not easily reproduced, then you have to make that known to the developers when you write up those bugs. And so you're writing up a bug. If you get 100%, there's not so much of a need to make a video. So you just put, this is happening 100% of the time. The developer reads your bug, reproduces it themselves. Boom, you're good to go. You don't need to it. But every once in a while, you get these like, special Moby Dick kind of like hidden bugs that happen 10% of the time, 5% of the time, but they're like really serious. You got to find it and you're not sure how to do it. Now, if you have one of those issues, the videotape is essential. It's absolutely essential because it's your word against the world. And if it's one of those things, there's multiple times where I'm just like, hey, I'm seeing this bug, but I cannot reproduce it. But I've seen it, in the last hour, 3 or 4 times. But every time I try to reproduce it, it doesn't really happen. The developer will say, hey, I try to reproduce your bug. I'm not seeing it. Obviously, yes, I'm telling you that it's happening to me like 30 to 10% of the time. And I'm spending 8 hours on it. How many hours are you spending on it? Because just because a developer works on a game doesn't mean they're spending time playing the game. They're working on it, right? That's my job, is to spend massive amount of hours into it. So the idea there is getting a videotape is really, really important. And if you can finally capture it, I got it. Then you stop what you're doing. You take your VHS tape, you go to wherever and you say, hey, rewind a few seconds, watch here, and you're golden. What a pain in the butt. It's really a pain in the butt. And so if you think writing up bugs either is easy, well, it also depends, right? It depends on the company and how many computers they want to provide. Obviously, if you're on PC, you're working on a PC game, it's easy. You just open up a browser, go into the test bug software, enter it. But back in the day, they had like 1 or 2 computers per like 12, 15 people. So you got to imagine this room that's empty and then it just has tables. Well, obviously it's not empty if it has tables, but it's kind of like an empty room with tables. And then you have your console and your TV and your chairs, right? And everybody's just sitting at there. And then at the end of the room or somewhere, there would be like 2 computers, two old school boxy, big old computers. And you would take a piece of paper. Oh boy, this was a pain in the butt. I hope they changed it. I don't know if they changed it, but at the time, you take a piece of paper and you're like, I'm going to write up a bug. So you have a piece of paper that kind of represents how you're going to write up this bug, and you'd fill out the information, and then you'd put it into like a little tray, right? There'd be 2 trays, right? And so you're like, I don't know. So there's a tray that would fill up with bugs, and so the manager would come along and he'd read each one. And the manager then would know, because he spent all his time looking through all these bugs. He'd know, okay, this is a reproduction of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one actually isn't a bug. You just gotta, 4, 5, 6, or somebody already wrote this bug up. And so he would filter through them. He would have an idea, and so he'd take out the ones that aren't worthy, and then he'd take those new ones and put them in an empty tray next to it. So there's like an in and out tray, And so in the out tray, so when the out tray was filled up again, then you'd go over to the out tray, you'd pick up your bug written down and all the details and all your beautiful handwriting, right? It was just a huge waste of time. And then you'd go over to the computer. If there was somebody, like if there was like place spots at this computer. If somebody was already sitting there, you just wait. So you'd go there and you do the login, and then you'd submit the bug, and it has to be like exactly the way you wrote it. Because if you start changing it, you start cutting corners. Because another thing is the way you wrote the bug was essential to how the developers understood how to reproduce it. So if you were poor in communication, if you weren't very good at writing bugs, then the manager would look at your bug and go, hey, listen, can you rewrite this? Can you structure this better? You're long-winded, or there's not enough details. You didn't put the level. You didn't put this and that. And so you rewrite it. It's like, giving it to the teacher and they would grade you or something, and you'd be poorly. So when they gave it back to you, you would know that it was ready to go, and then you'd enter it that way. And then you were good. So heaven forbid you find like 10 bugs that day, right? Heaven forbid that you just get on a game, right? Imagine this. You just got on a game, it's about a week or two in, and you got 15 other people, and you get a new build, and let's say all of you guys find a similar bug. Not the same bug, because usually communication with your teammates is important. Hey, has anybody seen this bug where you do this and this? Yeah, I've seen it. Okay, I'll write it up. But, and you're trying to, it's like brownie points. So the more bugs you write up, so it's like, who's going to get it first? You got to get it first, right? Like, I'm the one that's going to write it up so I can get the recognition, because that is counted against you in the end, depending upon where you go. And so what if this bug is reproduced this way? Let's say this is a weird example. You get the bug by walking through the door, but then also this person gets this bug by crawling out the window. Okay. The whole process is transitioning from this room to the next room, but there's a big difference between the door and the window. It's not the same. So those could be two different bugs, or they could be the same exact bug, but we don't know, because we don't know how the developers, if they're tied together or not. So you got people here, you're waiting for the manager to get back to you and when you can submit the bug. And, so you're waiting, and then you got 15 people over here all waiting in line to submit your bugs. You got a stack of paper, a stack of bugs that you want to submit, and you're waiting in line. Time is going by, it was a really long process. It was a big headache. It was a big pain. So that's an old school way. It wasn't fun whatsoever. Technology has advanced so much since then. Computers are cheap now. Companies will most likely buy everybody a computer, to use, so it's not such a big deal now. But I just wanted to share that. That's a little bit of video game testing history. It was originally just a huge pain, but now it's so much better. If you guys who are in the industry have any memories or anything like that, please share those in the comments below. If you're new, or if you've been here but you have not subscribed, hopefully this video has been somewhat entertaining or provided some value to you. So please like and subscribe. I'll have plenty more, and I will see you guys in the next video.